Welcome, agents and investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, January 11th, 2024. And this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 462. We're coming up on 500. I think we're giving away a fabulous prize for our 500th call, right, Bruce?
Uh, yeah, you tell me.
We'll figure it out. We got 28 weeks to 38 weeks to go. So
You
we'll
got
figure it
38
out.
weeks for you and Tim to figure that out. Let me know what it is
Exactly. I
day
don't know,
before.
leads for life or something. We'll come up with something good.
Oh my goodness.
It's all yours, Bruce. Take it away, please.
All right,
Stop talking.
guys. Want to welcome everyone here as Tim rolls his eyes. I want to welcome everyone here. It's good to see familiar faces. This is the All the Leads Mastermind podcast, as Jim just said. Um, call it a podcast mainly because you guys should be listening to it in your free time on your drives. We want you to hear my voice over and over and over again in your sleep, even. Just joking on that. But if anybody does want to listen to archive calls, you can go look up the All the Leads Mastermind on your favorite podcast platform. You can listen to archive calls on YouTube. Just go to the All the Leads YouTube channel. So there are ways that you can go back and either re-listen to something if it was really good and you just didn't take the right notes, or listen to things from the past. On the YouTube channel, there are also some old role play calls, different things like that. There's a lot of good value that you can get just out of the archives. Now, those of you that are here, I want to welcome you. You're here either on Zoom or you're here on via live stream on Facebook or YouTube. If you want to know where those live streams are, just in case you guys can't join Zoom in the future, the Facebook group is the All the Leads Mastermind. Join the group. This live streams there, or go subscribe to the All the Leads YouTube channel. This live streams there. We would like you guys here on Zoom because this is where we get our best interaction. So if you are watching on live stream, I want you to chat your questions and your comments in underneath. We are monitoring those. Any questions that you pop into the chat are going to come to the coaches here. We're going to be able to answer your questions. However, if you're with us live on Zoom, and I do see some familiar faces and I also see some new faces. So if you're here live on Zoom, as you have questions, and we don't care if they're basic questions, intermediate questions, advanced questions, as you have questions, I want you to go to the reactions button and raise your hand. And strangely, down at the bottom of my Zoom screen, I see a button standing alone that says raise hand. I don't know if you guys see that. If you do, raise your hand that way. We want to answer your questions, and I'd love to answer those live. So I'd like to hear from you guys in person. So pop your hands up with your questions. If you have a success story, so you started prospecting, you've been doing mail marketing, you've built a website, you've put credibility content out, anything like that, and you're seeing some success, you signed a deal, you just closed, whatever it is, we want to hear from you guys. So raise your hand and let us know your success story. Best success story of the week gets a discount on your upcoming month of leads. Speaking of which, I usually save this a little bit longer, but I always have people that listen to this after the fact or here live that don't even know who All the Leads is. You just found this call. All the Leads obviously is involved in training and coaching in the probate space, along with a lot of other lead sources that are rolling out now as well, but heavily involved in the probate space. So if you want to work with families that have inherited property, that's kind of what we cover on this call. Um, they provide those probate leads. You could also get divorce leads, pre-probate leads. There's others coming, and if Tim wants to talk about those now, he can. If not, stay tuned. So other lead types coming. There's also marketing systems and prospecting systems around those things. So if you're going to send mail to your leads, they've got a mail house and sample letters, brochures, postcards, flyers, anything that you want with regard to print marketing and through the mail, they can help you fulfill. If you want credibility, you want to build credibility online for the people that maybe put your letter in a box and say, I'll call you later, or I'll go check you out. There are credibility websites. social media marketing, kind of anything, more of a business in a box around the niche. Let me say that. So if you're getting leads, look at the ancillary support systems and services and the system there for you guys. If you're not getting leads, check out alltheleads.com and then check your county pricing. You'll be able to see what probate leads or divorce leads or pre-probate leads are going to cost in your county. There's the pitch. We don't have to do it later. But if anyone needs any of those services, please reach out to all the leads. Tim, do you want to say anything before I kind of move on into a little bit of coaching and open it up to questions?
No, let's get into it. I've got some stuff I'll deal with a little bit later.
Okay, perfect. Guys, this is an amazing space. I know that there's a lot of folks here that have been here on this call over and over and over again. So I'm going to be a broken record for many of you. However, if you guys are considering getting into the inherited property niche, or if you're just getting into it now, I want to really encourage you guys that there is so much available business. Not only is there a lot of available business, but there's the great feelings of being able to help a family, help someone who's going through one of the toughest times of their life. In many cases, they have lost a loved one and they are just completely overwhelmed with their process. They don't know what to do next. They're making mistakes. They're procrastinating. They're getting stuck in what we call probate quicksand. And so you guys need to be kind of approaching this from the standpoint of you are here to be a resource. Yes, almost everyone here is in the real estate space. So yes, you can call and say, I see you're going through probate. You want to sell the house? You can, but I encourage you guys to say something more like, hey, I see you're going through probate. I'm here to be your resource. I'm here to be your resource. That could be with regard to real estate needs. It could be with regard to cleaning a house out, connections. It could be maintenance on properties involved. How can I help? That's the overall attitude that you're going to approach these conversations and this process from. Okay, so very important that you guys understand the possibility. Some general numbers for everybody. You get 100 leads. Let's just pretend you're getting 100. Some people are less, some people are more. There's going to be about 75, 80% that have real estate involved in that estate. And about half of those that have real estate involved are going to sell. Okay. You all don't have to capitalize on everyone that's going to sell to have massive business success here, but you do need a percentage. And you need to build out an approach for your percentage. We're in the beginning of the year, and I'm going to encourage you guys to put a plan together. Figure out what your day-to-day activities are going to be that lead to the success. Many times we set these goals that are this big goal, and we have no path to get there. And you might put a goal over on one side of the Grand Canyon. You're standing on the other side of the Grand Canyon. And if the only thing you're doing is staring at that goal saying, I want to sell 24 probate houses a year, you're going to walk right into the canyon and off of a cliff. So you set your goal, you work the numbers backwards, and you figure out what your daily and your weekly activities are going to be that lead to the goal, and you're not going to make missteps. Okay, so that's what I want you guys doing. Figure your big goal out, but then go back and determine what those daily or weekly activities are going to be for you. That's my encouragement to everyone. At this point, I want you to plan your week, plan your day. And a lot of us don't like planning. We like to fly by the seat of our pants. I am the king of flying by the seat of my pants. But you've got to have a daily plan. You need to know what activities are going to take you to the goal that you have. So, got a couple of questions that came in through chat. So, number one, what if the public administrator of the county is the PR? Interesting. So normally public administrator is going to be a court appointed or assigned administrator. A lot of times it's not going to be an officer of the county. It's not going to be a clerk or something like that. So in general, There are people that sign up. They don't necessarily volunteer because they get paid, but they sign up to be public administrators or fiduciaries to act on behalf of an estate when either families can't agree on how to manage the estate, who's going to be the PR, or when there really aren't family members that are capable or willing to step up and be the personal representative and manage the estate. So a public administrator is normally involved to make decisions for the family and oversee the process. You want that public administrator relationship. So is it a deal or is it no deal? It is a deal. I don't know if the house, we still don't know if real estate's involved or if it's going to be sold, but you want a relationship with them. There's a couple of relationships that pay dividends over time. Number one are public administrators. Reach out to them, treat them like they're your brother, unless you don't get along with your brother. Treat them like a close family member. You need that relationship because they're going to be the public administrator on multiple estates moving forward in the future if they do a good job. Attorneys are another relationship that you need to nurture and build because they're going to get more than one deal. When you deal with a personal representative, you're oftentimes going to get a deal now. And if you take care of that relationship, you might get some referral deals and repeat business deals from them over time. But the public administrators and the attorneys and the vendors and the clerks and the different people that are involved day to day and lots of probate processes, those are the relationships that you need to cultivate and nurture over time. Okay, so go after that person. Great question. Flavio, a PR said, make me an offer. I have an investor offer to propose. Who pays the commission? Do you have the seller pay or the investor pay? Most of my investors, by the way, a quick side note, investors are another person that you want an ongoing, steady relationship with. Okay. So just like the attorneys and the public administrators, your investors, you want ongoing and consistent relationships with. So I'm normally going to know my investors ahead of time and ask them if they're willing to pay the commission. Many times they'll say yes. Okay, they might pay you a little bit as a closing cost on top of what they're paying for the property, and you probably ought to try to negotiate a deal where you get the listing on the back end, even if you list it at a lower amount. So my investors, I take them a deal, and the majority of them will pay me a commission for bringing the deal. They'll close, they fix the house up, they sell, but I've got an agreement with them where if I bring them a property that they flip, I get to list it on the back end as well. And I do a little bit lower on both the front and back end than what I would do if it was a traditional consumer because I want that investor's business repetitively. You guys don't have to go lower on your fees and commissions though. So I would probably have the investor pay. If the investor doesn't want to do that, you sign a listing agreement and you get the seller to pay. Right. Anybody have any different way that you've done that? Because I know we've got a lot of agents on here. We have investors on here as well. I want to hear from other agents and other investors on how you guys handle that. Do you handle it the same way I do? If you're taking a cash offer from an investor to a personal representative or an estate, how do you guys handle it? Is Ken on here?
Yeah,
Thought it was
I just
quiet.
noticed that I don't see Ken today.
I don't see Ken.
Yeah, unusual.
He's
Yeah.
here. Oh, he was.
Was he here?
Well, no, I thought he was. Take
I
that
don't
back.
think so.
All right. So, folks, we got plenty more room for questions. That's kind of all the questions that we have at the moment. So I want to hear questions, but I would also I'm going to open it up for those of you that are either agents who have deals like this with investors or investors that have deals like this with agents. How do you guys handle it that might be a little bit different from what I just mentioned? There's a lot of ways to build our business, and I like to make adjustments based on what's working for other people as well. Tim, what have you done? Jim, what have you done?
Most of the time, course, I haven't done it in a few years, but we bought and flipped a lot of properties. I would say if I was acting as the investor, obviously I didn't ask for a commission. The times that I brought an investor to the table, I was usually able to get the seller to pay the commission, even if I had to add it on to their asking price.
Sure.
Because that seemed to be more standard in my market. But this was a dozen years ago, Bruce. So I think what you said is more closer to the trend today. I think investors are more savvy, sellers are a little bit more savvy, and what you said probably would work better now.
Yep.
But if the seller wants 300,000 and you say, hey, if I bring you 310, will you sign this contract? They'll agree to pay you a commission, and then if you bring them 305, they'll probably still pay you the commission. I did have a number of open listings too. Said, hey, before you put it in the market, you're not going to list with me. You got another before you put it in the market. Give me a week to sell it. I'm pretty sure I can, or give me 10 days to sell it. Most people will sign a short-term listing like that if you can't get a regular one.
I've done a lot of open listings, a lot of off-market listings. In this environment, if you're a realtor doing that, you need to be a little bit more cautious and be a little bit more honest and upfront. You should have always been honest and upfront. Let me say that. I'm not saying be more ethical than you would have been. That's not what I'm saying. But go out of your way to be more transparent in this environment, because we're getting a little bit more litigious. Agents are making mistakes. The Association of Realtors has done some things that is more in a spotlight. So if you're doing things like pocket listings or you're doing open listings, be extremely transparent with the prospect. I always found that was the best form of business anyway. People really appreciate the understanding and transparency of how you're doing it. One thing that I used to do with a lot of people that would not know if they were selling yet or they weren't quite ready is I would sign a listing agreement and I'd say, not going to put it on the MLS yet because you don't want it on the MLS yet. You're not ready yet, but let's do an open listing agreement. You can cancel it at any time. This listing agreement basically means that I can float this out to any buyers that I might have. As soon as I have that agreement, I can now start marketing and promoting the property. Okay. You can't really market and promote a property that you don't have an agreement to market and promote. So I would start promoting that. I'd keep it off of the MLS as per the seller's wishes because their timing wasn't right. It would get me a way to start to get permission to market their property. And I would take that to my buyers. I would use that as a way to generate buyers as well. I used to have an approach called using bait to catch bait. Okay. So buyers follow listings. And what I used to do is I'd have this list of buyers that were looking for something unique, and I'd go find homeowners that had that property that was unique. And I'd say, have you ever considered selling? And they'd go, maybe in a couple of years. And I'd go, would there be a price that might help you consider selling? And they'd say, yeah, if I could get this. And I'd get an open listing agreement, off market pocket listing, and I'd go generate more buyers off of that listing. And so you use the buyers to generate the sellers, and you use the sellers to generate the buyers. And you could do that nicely in the probate space as well, especially with the people that aren't quite ready to go yet, which we know you're going through probate. You got a lot on your plate. You're dealing with lawyers and accountants, and you're dealing with property cleanouts and estate sales and all these different things. Many times you're not quite at a place where you're going to sell the house today. It might be a few months off. And if it's a few months off, get that agreement, get an understanding that you might not be showing the house yet because they don't want it shown yet, but you can at least start taking it to your buyers. All right. It's a great way to get your foot in the door early instead of having to wait.
Hey, Bruce, you probably see it, but it looks like Steve Carney has some comments. Steve, you want to unmute yourself and share those live with us?
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I haven't checked chat, but Steve, if you are free and
want
to share that,
he has options that he's used as a realtor.
Yeah. So Bruce, I appreciate what you said, your caveat. Obviously you've got experience as a realtor. For someone brand new, that may be a challenge. Like you said, you might not be as adept at working through the process or having that knowledge of the process that you have. So that can be a little bit of a challenge. And I think the main thing you said more than anything else was, I can't market this unless I have it under some form of agreement, because that's where you really get in trouble. You
Yep.
got nothing, so, and that's key. And as a guy like me who's working in the creative space, not as a realtor, it just speaks to me because, hey, we got to find a buyer. It could be as little as 5 days. It could be 120 days, which, is not unusual for what you would do even as a conventional realtor. If they sign an agreement for 90 days to be under contract.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are all great points. I just think as someone who's still on the fence as to whether or not they get the realtor's license or not, that's not something I would attempt as a realtor.
Why are you on the fence?
Because I'm not sure what it, to work for, here in Pennsylvania, you have to work for a brokerage. You got to be working for somebody. I guess you could do an EXP, and do it. I know Chuck Sirk talked to me about that. Steve, just take the test. You can be an EXP, pay the $90 or $100 a month, whatever it is, and you can be your own guy. So,
there's lots of brokerages that operate with a heavy hand and lots that operate with a light hand. And being a new agent, you have to, if you get a license, you have to understand that if you're going to transact, you probably want good brokerage oversight. Okay, it doesn't mean that the broker is going to be heavy-handed and that you're going to be working for someone. But having a license is going to open up some options for you. Okay.
Well, I think one of the things a license does is in terms of just professional qualities that you have. Look, there's certain standards you must maintain, otherwise, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
Which that helps. You get credentialed in a sense to do that. So I'm not saying that there isn't an upside to it. I just haven't figured that one out.
Got it. Yeah. Who just chatted in? I saw it flash on my screen. I'm not looking at the message right now.
While you're looking at that, Steve, I was just going to comment. I was both for my entire career. I was very young. I was more of a buyer's agent in the beginning. Then I became a listing agent. Then I became more of an investor. But one of the benefits I always found to listing the property was, especially if they were on the fence, was if they got more motivated, especially if I saw some impending urgency. We don't have to sell for 90 days. Once I listed it, if it didn't sell, I was the first investor in line. So you're effectively blocking out your competition by getting it listed, because nobody's going to sneak in behind you. You're going to have the first shot to go in and buy it. Just interesting. The other thing I was going to say real quick, and I've shared this before, something Bruce said, transparency is so important. When I had the idea for this company, I started working probate leads, and in about 6 months, I had my 3 biggest deals ever. They were close to 100,000 each as an investor. And what I had done back then, I would tell people, you have options, multiple, like we do. And then they'd say, I had 3 people that were on the fence. Well, I'm not sure. Investor sounds good, but I think I'd like to get a little bit more for it. So can you give me two options? And I was just brutally honest with them. I remember one guy said, it's probably worth 300 if you've got 4 to 6 months to sell it. But as an investor, I'd have to buy it for 210. He said, okay, thank you very much. He called me back a couple weeks later and said, everybody else told me it was worth 180. So yeah, come buy it. The brutal honesty, people today know what it's worth, especially today. They didn't back then, but they can Google. So everybody else is trying to mislead them, like they're doing them a big favor. If you actually give them the options and you're honest with them, I got deals that way just because I was really the only one being honest with them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it makes sense because you're guiding them. Then you're guiding them. You're providing them with options. You're laying it out for them. Okay, which is best for you, and then you can go pursue and execute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So yeah, and I've never found a downside to having a license. I really haven't. But but that's me. Someone else, Jeremy, chimed in on this also, Bruce. He had made a comment.
Yeah,
there.
Jeremy, my take is that this is not my take. This is what Jeremy said. My take is I'm unlicensed, so I can bring in my partners that are licensed to do more together. Agreed. Here's what I find a lot of times when you are on an appointment, and this is not the case for everyone. It depends on your level of authority and influence when you're in the appointment. But I find that when you're in the appointment, you've got a unique window of opportunity to be able to capitalize on that for your business. And many people, maybe not Jeremy, okay, many people in the appointment, if it's not an investment deal, and then you try to say, hey, you know what, I've got these realtors that I'm going to bring in, and they'll show you what they can do for a listing. You may not be able to get back in the door for an appointment, especially if your price was insulting. Okay. And I'm not saying people get insulted for a lot of different reasons, and they're not all good reasons, but some people get bothered by the price that we offer as investors. So I like to lay out 3 different options for people on the table when I go to the property. So I will lay out if I buy the house option. I'm going to come back to that one in a minute. So if I buy the house, it's going to be X number of dollars. If I list the house, it's going to be in this range. Okay. So when I give an offer on me buying the house, I don't give a range. This is the price. Okay. If I were to list the house, I give a little bit of a range, and then I will list off on a little side addendum. And it's not even a contract. It's just a side piece of paper. I'll list off all the things that they need to tackle if they're going to get the price range that I've given them as a listing agent. Okay. So you need to clean the house out. You need to paint the trim. You need to fix the decor, get the couch out, get the garage cleaned out, make these repairs. I'll just list off things that they should do if I'm going to list the house. Okay. The idea is I want to be honest with them on getting more money for a listing, but there's some things that they need to do. Okay. And then the third would be something like a Novation or a partnership type of agreement. So those are the 3 options that I lay out in front of someone when I'm in an appointment. Now, I told you I was going to come back to the offer if I'm buying the house. So I have part A and part B under that. So if I'm buying the house and I'm going to close myself, I'm going to do a traditional closing, either cash or finance. It doesn't matter. This is the price. B is you could also select owner financing. Okay. And I'll show them how much more they make if they owner finance the house to me, how much more they're going to make in 2 or 3 years when the balloon is due. Okay. And I've had people that have said, yeah, I want to sell the house, but I think I'm just going to, I've literally had this happen multiple times. I'll sell you the house. I'd like to close soon. I'd like to get my money now, but I don't know what I'd really do with my money. I think I'd rather get the bigger amount in 2 years when a balloon comes due. Okay. That's a great way to do it. So if you're going to buy a house, I like to offer option A, option B under the buy the house. Get closed, get you the cash in 25 days. Or owner finance, and here's your payment plan. Here's the amortization schedule and how much you're going to make in 2 years or 3 years when the balloon is due. All right. So I like to give those 3 options. And of course, under the me buy the house option is 2 sub options. Okay. And I find that works really well. Now, if I leave, if my price of buying the house is offensive to them, then they know that I also have the listing option that's higher. And I find that I get that more often. Now, I've been a realtor for a long time. It's probably because I kind of influence people in that direction a little bit more. But I've also tried to influence people on the direction of selling to me. And sometimes my price just isn't good enough. And I'd rather still have that listing option for them so that I don't have to try to chase them and get a listing agent in later. All right. Questions, comments? Anybody else have anything that you do?
Hey, Bruce, Steve jumped back in and said you take over title during the owner financing.
Yes.
Yeah, I assumed you did. Sure.
Yep. I take title. I usually give them a down payment. Sometimes I have not given a down payment, but I would usually give a down payment, and I'm taking title, and I'm paying a little bit more than normal interest rate. Okay. Maybe not today, normally. So if it was 2 years ago and normal interest rates were 3%, I'd probably pay 5 or 6% interest rate over that a couple of years. The bottom line is I want, when my balloon comes due, I want to show them that they're going to make more or near that they're going to make more with less hassle than even if I listed. Okay. Which when you're paying interest, you're going to pay the interest to someone if you financed it. When you're paying interest, they're collecting that heavy interest on the front end. So it's very appealing for a lot of them to owner finance, especially if they don't need the money to put in another property. So it's kind of one way I like to handle things.
Bruce, one of the points that was made in the chat was that doing the deal as a novation is a way to do it. And also the point that in a novation, potentially it may affect the amount being offered. You could conceivably offer more if you did it under a novation to take over that property because you're inheriting a loan that might be at a significantly reduced rate, which would reduce your carrying costs. Lots of things to do with that. You want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. So generally, innovation, I'm not often going to do innovation that's going to take me a long time to get through. If I'm going to do innovation, it's going to be pretty simple. And there's going to be a lot of people here that know novations and a lot of people that have never heard it before. So very, very basically, a novation is where you sign an agreement with them to buy the house. Okay. It's not a wholesale. You are not trying to assign the paper to an end investor. What you're trying to do is do some basic repairs, updates, clean up of the property, boost the value a little bit. And then normally you need a marketing agreement. If you're a realtor, you sign a listing agreement with them at the same time you sign your contract. If you're not a realtor, somebody needs to, you got to have someone involved that can help you market it, probably another realtor. You sell the property. Okay. The buyer is not taking over your paper. The buyer is buying the property at whatever it's worth. So let's say that I sign an agreement to buy a house at 100,000. And because I've cleaned it up and done some basic repairs, I've made it worth 200. Somebody steps in. I relinquish my position in my contract. Somebody steps in and buys the house for 200. And there's $100,000 spread. So the novation agreement basically says how that $100,000 spread is going to be shared. Okay. So it might be 50-50, might be 75-25, might be 100% you and 0% them. But the novation agreement says that you can market the property and sell it for more than your existing contract. And that there's normally some kind of a share of the spread of what you get. Okay. So you could generally, if I'm doing this, I'm not going to lock a property up for a long, long, long time. I'm going to go in and be able to do some basic things to boost the value by a substantial amount of money. It could be 40,000. It could be 100,000. I'm going to try to do enough to boost the value. And now the seller knows that worst case scenario, they got my cash price. Worst case scenario, they got my cash price, but I'm going to try to sell it before we get to closing.
Bruce, one of the things I think that is coming up in regard to this has to do with the fact that in some cases that novation is going into place where the property it's generally, if you're going to do a novation agreement, you're basically going to step up and in theory, you're going to take the place of the owner of that property in that agreement. So there could be legitimately a full new agreement written where you're substituting yourself for that buyer. Therefore, you're taking over the loan, but it's not like an assumption. You're releasing, if you do a full-on novation and the owner gets released from their obligations, you've transferred that entire thing to you. They no longer have the obligation and all of that. So in essence, they're, in quotes, they're selling it, but they sold it via the novation to you. And you might want to do that where you see that the opportunity is there because of the load. They may not be able to make that mortgage payment. That may be the big motivation for them to get it done. And that was, I think, one of the points that was being asked. I got it chatted in, is that they've got a circumstance that's like that. They've got a hefty mortgage. There's no cash flow for anybody that's in that estate to pay it. And they're worried that, if they can't get it sold, they would rather, get rid of it now, but they'd be willing to just be off the paper. So I think that was kind of the point they were trying to make.
Yeah, but you can't take them off of the paper without closing. So to me, that's not a novation. And I could be dead wrong. You can't take them off the paper. You could take over their mortgage payment. You could sign it.
That's the point. Yeah, I think that's the point. And it's different than an assumption in the case that the assumption, you could assume it, that doesn't get them off the paper. The novation gets them off the paper if you pass the deed that way. And there are ways, I guess, to do that.
Then it's not a novation anymore.
Like
So
Jeremy
we're
just
getting
said
into
with the-
semantics here, guys.
Yeah, Jeremy said it's a subject to that way, but it's
Yep.
the same.
Yeah.
Yep. So the novation is you sell the property before anyone moves to closing. They're not off the paper, but you can, in the novation, you can agree to pay their mortgage payment. I've seen that happen a lot. I'll cover your mortgage payment for the next 6 months while I'm getting the house ready and resold. I've seen that. So that's fine. So, but there's a lot of different things that you guys can do. There are specialists that go really heavy in a lot of these different scenarios. We're kind of covering the 30,000 foot view of different options that you guys have today.
Yeah, I think the only big point that I was specifically trying to make there is that if you find somebody with an unusual circumstance where the person who passed away has left the estate with it's a nice piece of property and all of that, but they can just simply not afford the monthly payments. There's no cash flow to do that. That's something to be keenly aware of in terms of that being the fuse on the deal. That may be the fuse that gets lit at the death of that person, is that, they've got a $3,500 a month mortgage and zero cash flow to support that. So that something's got to happen, or they're going to get into default pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So finding a way to make a deal with them in regard to the burden of that mortgage as the big factor there, or whatever you can do in terms of leveraging that becomes real important.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Excellent. All right, couple of chatted in questions, and still looking for, we're getting kind of late in the call, still looking for our first hand up. So raise your hand if you want to ask a question or chime in. A couple of folks have asked a few questions in chat, though. Is there anyone reaching out to network with hospice companies or hospice providers? There are. I would be curious if anyone on this call has networked and built relationships with anyone in the hospice industry. Yes, there are. Same with nursing homes, same with assisted living. There's lots of pre-life transition industries and professionals that you may want to network with. I would not just walk into a hospice company and start networking with them. This is just me, okay? I'm sure that there's some people that have successfully gone to a company. For me, I'm wanting to sort of establish a connection, a friendship, even with the individual hospice care provider. They're the ones that are going to have the relationships. These are folks that you may have in your sphere of influence already. And essentially, I'm going to treat them just like they're in my sphere of influence. I don't need them to. I don't need to walk in and say, "Hey, send me all your people that are about to sell a house." But they're building strong bonds and relationships with people here, and I haven't personally done it, but I could see a way that you guys would be able to get some business this way. Nursing homes and assisted living are really big for some of our subscribers. You've gone and built relationships with the administrator or the salesperson for the assisted living company or nursing home. And a lot of times, especially if they're trying to work out financing, houses need to be sold, and they can promote you. It's a little bit weird, a little bit more weird for a hospice provider to start handing your business card out. Okay.
Hey, Bruce, I was going to say, just like we always say, attorneys are very underworked and underutilized source for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the nursing home administrator, care facility administrator, is grossly undervalued, because that administrator, that person, their job depends on keeping that place full.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a real motivation, a real incentive to, to reach out, and it's mutually beneficial to them. I would challenge somebody that to actually do that. We haven't really heard too many stories about that over the years. We've asked, maybe one or two, but they were incidental. I don't know anybody who's gone out and worked that as a niche, but I think it could be really profitable, really,
Yep.
really productive. Yep.
Agreed. Tim, your hand is up. Why is your
It is
hand up?
indeed. It is indeed. First off, I was wanting to make sure that worked, but also the other thing I was going to say that I think is this is a kind of an interesting one to bring up and talk about because of the somewhat sensitive nature of it, and it could be perceived badly. But I think if you're sincere and if you're doing it correctly, it works well. And I'll do this speaking from some personal experience, not with my parents, but a couple of other people that I know recently. The hospice folks have been referred to the family from the minister in the church or the pastor or the priest in the church or the rabbi or whoever the spiritual leader is in the congregation. And, one of the things that you have to be extremely careful with is that the last thing you want to be doing is standing at the door of the church, handing out your business cards to say, hey, if somebody's dying, I want to sell their house. That's the last thing I'm suggesting here. What I'm saying is that if you literally build your business and you literally approach this from a providing value first standpoint, then you've got a lot of things that you can talk about in regard to doing the things that you do and bringing good transitional solutions to people. So if you get the opportunity to talk to a pastor or a spiritual leader, that's a one-to-many person. And if you can offer solutions to them that they can confidently recommend to the people in their flock, that is a great way to market your services and a very kind and loving way to do it. You're automatically walking in the door under empathy. And like I said, that's the last place you want to do without sincerity and, the right spirit in your heart to go do it. But I know a lot of the people who are on this call, we've had them say wonderful things about the cool things that they have done that legitimately help people. And I think that's a very also underutilized approach to that would be a great thing to add to your repertoire of having a relationship with a number of spiritual leaders in a community that can help you find folks that you can help in those times of need. It's critical.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think ultimately when you form your relationships, you want to form your relationship with an easy way to coach whoever you have the relationship with, an easy way to coach them into how they can connect to you. And I don't see a really easy way to coach someone that's a hospice provider into connecting you. The thing that pops in my mind right away, and this is not what you want to do, is tell them, hey, when the loved one is days from dying, hand my business card out and go, hey, they're about to kick the bucket. Here's the agent that you need to go to. That's just, I don't see an easy way for a hospice provider to refer you. I'm not saying that there isn't an easy way. I just don't see it right now. So form a relationship. It might lead to something. You might find a way to have them refer you. But timing and how that kind of conversation comes up for the hospice provider is something that I'm a little murky on.
So Bruce, one of the things that, again, sort of the same sourcing, volunteer. Almost every hospice organization loves to have volunteer help where people will literally help coordinate things in the event of a hospice. They have care providers that are the more professional side of it, the people who deal with the medical issues and the nursing issues and all of that. But they also look for compassionate care and, things that can help the family in times of need and all of that sort of stuff. And again, you're not approaching it from the standpoint of, hey, I'm a realtor, I'm a real estate investor. I'm a person. I'm here to help. And I know a lot about end of life kinds of things. And, it may be something where, the family is there and in those conversations, it's like, well, what are we going to do about these things that we're dealing with? And it's also a great time for, attorney referrals and all of the sorts of things that you would want if you were in that situation as a family and you know that your loved one is in the last, times of their life. What do you have to do to prepare for that? There's no manual. Nobody ever knows what that circumstance is going to be like. So all of a sudden, they don't have a clue. You become a valued resource. And hospice folks always look for help. They'd be glad to let you be involved in that.
Yep. Perfect. Love it, guys. Bottom line is relationships, being a resource, being a person. Okay. So be a person. You don't always have to walk around with your investor hat or your realtor hat. You want business, have relationships. That's sort of the bottom line. Another question that came in a little bit ago, is there any benefit to kind of working the land angle? So people are going through probate. Is there any benefit as an investor to working on land deals, or is it too complicated because of chain of title issues and lots of names? We have subscribers with all the leads that work land deals almost exclusively, very, very successfully. So there's huge benefit to working raw land, vacant lots, things like that. And yes, there could be, there's not always big money in these from the family side. Let me say that the family's not always going to make a whole lot of money, but I've closed land deals and I've helped families that have inherited land, and it's a great opportunity. I would pursue it for sure.
Bruce, you remember our guy? It's been a year or two, but he got involved with, I think it was 10 acres on a main road. It was zoned residential. He was kind of wondering whether he wanted to get, because it was out in the middle of nowhere, and he found out it was in the path of progress, about to be rezoned commercial. So he got a hold of the seller, helped him get it rezoned. Then the seller turned around and found a developer, and our agent ended up getting like 180 townhouse commissions on the listings that the developer built on the land that he helped the seller get rezoned. So you just never know where a deal's going to go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the land is a major opportunity for those that want to deal with land. Is there any literature on the site that we know of that states that shows which states a PR can sell the house before probate is complete? All right. Man, I don't want to give you guys the wrong information, but I don't know of a single state where you can't sell assets before probate closes. I have been told by a handful of people over the years, oh, I live in such and such a state. We're not allowed to sell the real estate until probate is finished. And then I found out that they're wrong. So almost every time someone has told me my state doesn't allow the sale of an asset until probate is completely finished and closed, it's been wrong. So are there instances where an individual property can't be sold because it's in a unique situation until probate closes? Yes, there are instances. But in every state that I know of, Tim, Jim, please correct me. Bill is on here. Please correct me if you know something different. In every state that I know of, you can sell real estate before probate closes, and should sell real estate before probate closes, because the longer it sits in the estate, the more it's costing everyone in taxes, insurance, mortgage, if there's mortgage on it. If it's empty, it's just going downhill. They should sell long before probate closes. Not everybody does, but they should. And there are some times when you're not allowed to sell it until you wrap probate up, but that's more on a case-by-case basis.
It also just varies, Bruce, that in many states, it can be done if the personal representative has full authority. We know that's one of the things that's usually important in doing it. And there are states where the court itself must approve that sale, regardless of how it's being done. Some cases, the court doesn't need to do it. If they approve the administrator with full authority, they can sell it for what they want to sell it for. So it is a state by state deal, but to my knowledge as well, throughout the 400 and some odd numbers of these we've done, we've yet to find a state where someone said, nope, can't do it. Just like you said, we've had a couple who say, oh, I don't think that happened. That can happen. And oftentimes that's an attorney that's maybe either not as familiar as they should be with it, or it's an attorney who wants to work with their billing and get things done. And so
Mhm.
not to cast aspersions on attorneys, but sometimes, unfortunately, that happens. And so I think it's a matter of local, and it's a good reason, very, very good reason for you to go establish that great relationship with that attorney, with an attorney in your market. And Mark, do you have something to add to that? I'll ask you to unmute there, bud.
No, I had a separate question. I heard in the news this morning that foreclosures or filings are on the rise. Have you guys thought about ever selling foreclosure leads or pre-foreclosure?
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, if you'll
Coming soon.
topic, and then I'll kind of close this up here. I have a couple of questions to ask, and it's very timely that you asked that. But let's finish this one issue, and then I'm going to ask for people to be prepared to put yourself on the screen and hold your hand up for a second. We're going to ask a few questions here.
Got
Hey,
it.
Tim, I was going to add to the last conversation, just what we were talking about there, just knowing that and being able to point that out to the sellers in your prospecting calls is golden. You're probably going to be the only one that ever told them, it's going to be another 6 months till we can sell. You're probably going to be the first one to tell them that you're not going to disagree, but to tell them that there is an opportunity to sell quicker. Huge in your prospecting. Just always keep that in the back of your mind.
Yep. Awesome. Good. So Coley, what's the most effective marketing strategy look like? You're using direct mail now. Okay. Most effective marketing strategy is whatever that individual likes the most. Okay. That's a sarcastic answer. The reality, every consumer, every prospect has their own formula, and unless you know that prospect and you live inside of their mind, you don't know. So what you want to do is you want to build a comprehensive plan that has a start today, and then a place that you'd like to be in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 10 years. Okay. Things that I do or add to my business every month. So I may come up with a list of perfect world marketing that I'd like to do, but I don't have to have it all implemented today. So number one, if you're starting with mailers, you have to have an online presence, period. And it does need to refer to you as being in the estate, probate, or life transitions business somehow. Okay. If somebody gets your letter and they say, I'm not ready to deal with real estate right now, I don't think I need any of these services right now, they need to be able to go check you out before they're ready to call you. Okay, so credibility website, all the leads offers those. Put a series of blogs together, do some videos, create a Google local profile, do things to get yourself online in this niche. Now, I'm not saying replace all your other stuff with probate stuff. I'm saying that you need a heavy dose of probate things. Now, you're not going to start that way. You're probably going to start with a credibility website, and then create a plan to where over the next year, I want to have 5 videos up. I want to have 3 blogs up. I want to have a Google profile. Maybe some people might do Google pay-per-click or geofencing, but create a plan to be able to add a little bit to your online profile every month or so for a while until you have all your assets. The idea with these assets, especially online, is they will do your selling for you. Now, all of a sudden, you're not the person that has to constantly do all the selling for yourself. Your assets will do the selling for you. So if you're going to do mail, you need to build an online presence in the space. Obviously calls, obviously. So if that's not obvious to you, make it obvious to you. You need to be on the phone. I would build some social media presence and create some social media posts and a schedule for that. What else? What are we missing? Some people are going to door knock. Okay. Some people, most of you should be meeting attorneys and should be in bar association meetings and should be networking with assisted living and nursing home administrators. But the idea, guys, is that these things aren't frequently implemented all up front. A lot of times you start with maybe 3 letters and a website and some phone calls. And then As you get a little further along, you add a letter or two and you add a postcard. And then maybe you add a blog or a video. And then you add some more phone calls and you add another letter. And you just little by little by little build it out. But at least do something small today and do it consistently. And then you can begin to add over time. Okay. There is no such thing as the perfect sequence, because we don't know, we don't live in the mind of the prospect that we're marketing to. And what makes one person angry and another person ignore might be the perfect letter that drops in front of the third person. So we just don't know. And that therefore you need to do something, because what you're doing is always going to appeal to someone and you're going to catch them at the right time. All right. Okay, Tim.
All righty. So great call today, as always, and good job for everybody who participated, talked, and certainly Bruce, as usual, you did an excellent job of keeping us on track and moving forward. One of the things that we kind of started off with in the chat, those of you who are watching us on other forms of media wouldn't necessarily see this, but we are offering a special through the end of this month on the credibility websites that we offer. We think they're the best possible website you could have for certainly highlighting your probate business. And we're offering $50 off for that as a startup, and also buy one, get one on the premium pages. And what that means is that we have a number of different pages that are not part of the basic package that we can insert for you if you want that done. And we're doing that basically at half off, buy one, get one. So it's a great time to get your credibility website up and cooking. Happy to work with you. Contact your marketing implementation specialist. Call us, talk to us. Anything you want to do, we'll do that. Send us an email, put it on the back of an aardvark and run it across the road and we'll find it. We want to talk to you and we want to help you. I think the question that Mark had asked earlier is very opportune, and Bruce had sort of alluded to in the very beginning. This is a year of expansion for us. We started the company and we called it All the Leads for a reason. We intended when we began to literally offer every type of lead that was appropriate for the real estate community, and that was always our intention. We found that probate was a very consuming thing for us to do and do it well. It was a niche that was underserved. We think we've done a lot over the period of almost a decade now doing this to really develop our company as a significant and important aspect of that industry in the real estate industry across the country. So we're happy about doing that. It's now time for us to kind of fulfill our destiny, and that's to grow. So we've been making a lot of investments in our own business over the last year in the ability to serve up different types of leads and provide them in the same way that we're doing with the same level of excellence that we're trying to do here around probate. In other words, as a system. Just selling you leads, you can get them anywhere, and we know that. But we're building content around them. We're building credibility around them. We're building expertise around the way that we help you pursue those leads, give you the training to not just do them. Mark asked about foreclosure and pre-foreclosure. Yes, the market is changing. We know that, based on what's gone on in the last 3 or 4 years, there are people who have certainly qualified for mortgages that in the next 12 months, they're going to be having some challenges. And so we know that foreclosures and pre-foreclosures are going to become more and more important. We're also working on FSBOs and expireds and aged expires and all of that. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you would, is just those of you who are online here, type into the chat, what other types of leads are you currently pursuing other than probate? We know that you all are focused on probate. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. But other than probate, what types of leads are you specifically working? And if you'll let us know that, that's always going to be helpful to us. And anything like that you give us, we're looking at that to see, okay, what are the good things that we could potentially do to help you to make that business easier for you to pursue? So anything, I see somebody typed in divorce, and obviously divorce is one that we currently have. We've sort of soft pedaled it. You can get divorce from us now in about half of the counties that we serve. Someone else said expireds and canceled and FSBO. Expireds and FSBOs. Okay. Go ahead.
You're breaking up a little bit. Maybe it's just me.
You go ahead. I know you know what I was trying to say there.
Tim, do you want to mention the one that Jordan just sold that we can now get, or you
Yeah,
make
sure.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're also doing, we literally we got a request for tax liens. We can get any kind of lead. Our group and our collection folks, our wonderful leads group, can secure any kind of leads that we need to get. We have great folks that are out there who do this. We've now kind of expanded our collection ability that we can, there's not anything we really can't get and can't do well. But we were able to get tax liens, and we sent them out and worked on them, got them augmented, brought them back in, ran them through our augmentation system. And I was very, very surprised at the data that we got back in terms of the high quality. Not that I was surprised that we got good quality, but out of several thousand leads that we got, we had about a 90% return rate on good phone numbers and about a 75-80% return rate on good email addresses. So that was extremely good. And they came back, obviously, we were able to pull the amount in arrears, how much the tax lien was for, and all of that sort of thing, and good contact info. So we know that's a great lead opportunity for folks who want to work on tax liens. So there's just about, anything. And I appreciate, I'm seeing a bunch of other answers coming in. And somebody asked if our leads come with phone numbers. Chantel asked that. Of course, yes, they do. It's one of the major things that we do provide, Chantel, is good phone numbers for sure. Multiple numbers as well. So that's it. I just wanted to, I appreciate the info, and I'm real happy to get the info back from you. And you can look forward to us coming. We're going to probably continue to ask these questions over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And in the month of February, you're going to be seeing some interesting stuff from us. We've sort of been talking about some new product things we've done and are getting ready to release. We're working hard on them now. And so as we get those things done, Steve, I see you have a friend there, buddy. I'm unmuting you. What's your buddy's name?
This is Baxter. He's 2.5 years old. He's a Weimaraner. 100 pounds of unconditional love.
There you go, bud. Well, that's a great way for us to end. Jimmy, why don't you take us to the barn?
Yeah, and I wanted to say, Chantel asked a question about probate versus pre-probate. Chantel, call our customer service, email us, we'll call back, and one of our people will explain it to you. We kind of asked that at the end of the call, and I didn't want to let that unanswered. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I want to particularly thank those that actively participated. Another great call in the books. I want to challenge each of you, take one idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Same time next week. Take care.